Hello, everyone, and welcome to Crucial Conversations about Cognitive Diversity. We're so happy that you could join us today, and we're kicking off with lots and lots of excitement, I think, since it's almost time for schools to be out. Crucial Conversations about Cognitive Diversity is brought to you by the Bridges 2E Media and the 2E Centre for Research and Professional Development. My name is Maria Kennedy, and I have the pleasure of being your host. I'm a mom, an educator, and a change maker who has had the pleasure of working globally with an array of different students and their families. Today's topic is brought to you in conjunction with SENG's Mental Health Awareness Month. So the month of May, or the merry month of May, as we'd say at home, is a time for us to think about our personal mental health. And so we're having an additional crucial conversation today. We're going to talk about strategies to support good mental health and how to handle stress and how to keep you and your child moving in the right direction. I read recently that stress can't kill you. Doesn't feel like it, though. Sometimes that amount of stress just builds up and we just don't know what to do with it. So what is mental health? Mental health involves emotional, social, and psychological wellness. It influences how we act, how we think, and more importantly, how we feel. Your mental health also affects the way you relate to others, the kinds of decisions and choices you make, and how you handle stress. A mental health issue, unfortunately, can happen at any age and is not only triggered by trauma. Unfortunately, there are often monumental consequences to poor mental health, so it's important to have a look at both, or to look after both our physical and our mental health. So before we delve into today's topic, I'm delighted to share today's conversation with a dear friend who is also a mom and an educator. So I'm delighted to welcome Anahid Koumriquian. So please, Anahid, turn on your camera and introduce yourself.
Hello. It's so nice to be here, Maria. Thank you for inviting me on your show. I am a parent of 3 very intelligent and highly creative kids, and they are all unique. They are all in their own category of unique. One is a musician, one is an artist, and one loves to be on stage. I'm also, I've taught elementary school and have a multi-subject credential in California. I needed to focus on my mental health, especially during the pandemic. And what I did was I reached out to Bridges Graduate School of Cognitive Diversity and Education, because that was something I was very, very personally involved in with my youngest son, who's attending Bridges Academy. And I was thrilled to find out that they offered a graduate program that would educate me on the way my son learns. And along with that, why he behaves the way he does and how I could help him to feel safe in his learning environment and within the community. So that is what I've done. I've recently earned a master's in education through the Bridges Graduate School. And I've also participated in classes which certified me as a SENG model parent group facilitator, so I could share what I've learned with other parents, help create a community, and help guide other parents, letting them know that they're not alone.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes, not being alone, I think, is vitally important. I think particularly through the pandemic, we all realized how easy it is to become isolated. I mean, I think even here in LA, it's quite easy to not see people. People spend so much time in their cars going back and forth. But the pandemic and that complete lockdown, I think, made us all feel very, very lonely. So let's kickstart it. Oh, before we go on, unfortunately, my other guest, Julie Dieppe, is unable to join us today. She does send her apologies, and hopefully she'll be able to join us on another episode. So one of the things I've been looking at, as part of mental wellness, because unfortunately in the neighborhood, so I'm here in Studio City, there are a couple of schools also near us, and over the last couple of months we've heard that 2 students attending local schools have actually felt so stressed out that unfortunately they've taken their own lives. And it always worries me or makes me wonder, how desperate must somebody be in order to take their own life when there's nothing else, when they can see no other solution. And so I looked up some statistics, and I actually have to say that I was horrified with these statistics. I can't even say it. Back in 2021, 48,183 Americans died as a result of suicide. Suicide is the 11th leading cause of death in the United States. And every day, approximately 132 Americans die by suicide. That is one suicide in the United States every 10.9 minutes. And this one really shocked me. Suicide is the 3rd leading cause of death for 15 to 24-year-old Americans. So there is 1 death in every estimated 25 suicide attempts. And there are approximately well over 1 million attempts in the US. So 1 attempt every 26.2 seconds. And if we thought that America was the only place that this happened, unfortunately it's not. Nearly 800,000 people die as a result of suicide in the world each year, which is roughly 1 death every 40 seconds. And suicide is the 2nd leading cause of death in the world for those aged 15 to 24 years old. So, yak. So it's really, really, really important that we all look after our mental health so that we don't get ourselves to a state where we feel that we have no other out. Now, I know, Anahid, you were mentioning when we were talking earlier that not necessarily everybody who attempts suicide really wants to do it. You want to share with us what you said to me earlier?
Well, just speaking from the perspective of a parent, of course, those statistics are horrifying and every parent's worst nightmare. I'm going to reflect back on when the pandemic began. It was such a shocking time for our kids. And I know my high schooler had a very, very difficult time just pausing his entire life as he knew it and existing within the home, within the 4 walls of his bedroom. And it affected him just like many of his friends and many of the other kids that I know. And parents in the evenings when their kids were in bed, we were all on Zoom discussing with each other. And I heard through other parent groups that, many parents had done research and found that it's not always that a child has reached the end of their rope and they want to end their lives, but sometimes they're just thinking about it and they might take something too far. So as a parent, we just, in my opinion, at least what I try to do, what I stay focused on is I try to keep a conversation open with my child. I try my best to have every child in my family know that they could come to me no matter what the issue is that they're experiencing. I'm perspective, watching a reaction from a parent may be that they're upset, but it just might be a moment of shock. And then most parents gather themselves and everyone's intention is to help their child so they don't even get close to thinking about something like that. And I know during the pandemic, it was so hard to access mental health help in mental health. And I know many therapists were really busy and there was just such an influx of need that parents kind of had to step in and put that hat on and try to navigate the system until they could find a professional to step in and help. So yeah, that's really what I was talking about when we were discussing it. For me as a parent, I lay awake at night worrying that my child, may be pushed to even consider something that could have the worst ramifications. And I hope, and every parent hopes, that we are we are giving them an open, safe space where they could come to us with anything, even if it seems like the end of the world to them. We are there to help them.
I'm glad you mentioned seems like the end of the world. You know, we're at the end of the school year, in fact, and the pressure heading up to the end of the school year is actually quite phenomenal and quite intense. I mean, we have children who are finishing middle school, and so that pressure now, because they're going to be going into high school. I mean, even graduating kindergarten or not graduating kindergarten can be a major stressor for our children. And of course, we've just had this whole season when students are applying to colleges and universities and getting accepted or not getting accepted. And so all of that, of course, adds more additional stress and pressure at what should really be an exciting time of our lives as we look forward to the next stage. I'm sure it's for a lot of children is way more stressful than it really needs to be.
I definitely think the expectation is unrealistic. And again, I've noticed as a mom with my own kids, something that I may say at the moment because I'm thinking it at the moment can be perceived completely differently. And I would hope my children are not concerned about helping me reach my dreams for my children by focusing on, whatever their next step is in their education to please me or please their peers or please their teachers. I mean, wouldn't it be lovely if we could change the mindset of especially higher education from my child got into this specific school and that gives me as a parent bragging rights, or I am so proud, I cannot wait to share with everyone the success of my child because they got into a specific school. Wouldn't it be nice to change that conversation to my child is very good at this one subject and very interested in this one subject. And we are so excited to watch our child grow. And we think we found the perfect learning environment for our child. And we think by sending our child to this one specific place because of the way he or she or they learn best, we have found an environment that would optimize their learning potential. I mean, wouldn't that be a nice way to look at where our children are going to go in the next few years? And I don't know, is it possible that that would take the pressure off of our kids? Because their perception and our perception are two very different things.
Yeah, there's mounting peer pressure and obviously mounting pressure. I think as parents, I think we often think we're doing the best for our children, trying to get them into the best school. But as our children try to live up to our expectations, maybe that's additional pressure and stress. And like you say, maybe changing the way that we talk about it could be a much better way to diminish some of that unnecessary pressure. Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, no, sorry, I was just distracted by a note in the chat.
Well, I'd also like to point out, Maria, that everyone matures at a different time and everybody reaches certain cognitive and educational and maturity goals at different times. And I know within our neurodiverse community, there's a lot of asynchrony, especially when you're comparing maturity to physical age and intelligence. And to put the same expectation on every single child when everyone's brain is made up differently and everyone is growing at their own rate, which is okay. We can't all reach the same goals at the same time. So that should be understood, I think, by our children. Flexibility, I think, is key.
Most definitely. And I think, though, as adults, we need to try and ensure that our children take some downtime, that we don't totally stress them out all of the time. I mean, obviously, you want them to be able to tie their shoelaces, you want them to be able to get to school on time, but maybe there's a trade-off. One of my favorites, as both an educator and a mom, is that I'm the queen of major manipulation. right? So if you do this, then you can get this, right? And so, so with my little human, they loved to read, and when they were small, when he was about 7, he was obsessed with Pokemon. So we watched every Pokemon cartoon on the planet, and then the Pokemon people are literally geniuses. They actually brought out books of the TV programs, and so the child wanted all of the books and wanted the books in order, and so there was a trade-off. So for me, it was, if I needed him to do something that he was really reluctant or just really didn't want to do, then the promise that we would go to the bookstore and get him one of his books, right, or the next book in the series, was often one that made him stop from whatever meltdown he was in and go, okay, because he wanted the book. He wanted the book more than he wanted anything else in life. And I can't remember how much they were, but they were paperback. So they were less than $10. So bribery and corruption, yes. Was the $10 worth my personal peace of mind? Yes, it was, right? And so, so sometimes I think it's okay. I mean, obviously, we don't want to be bribing our kids with sweets all the time, but maybe it's quality time with you. Maybe it's curling up to watch a movie. Maybe it's going out for a walk. Maybe it's just following through on something that they truly enjoy doing. Earlier on this month, I had Susan and Robin on, and we were talking about student strengths. So reminding ourselves that as parents, our kids have got strengths, they've also got talents and interests. And so maybe tapping into those would be a great way to help them with their mental health. And important thing, parents, is that if your children's mental health is level, it does not help yours.
Yes, that's so true. High focus motivators, something I learned in the grad school. And, we've learned as teachers to use it as entry points into subjects that children are not as interested in. And definitely something I focus on. If there's something that my son or daughter is naturally interested in, it's definitely going to be used as a dangling carrot in a very positive way. Definitely, because that affects my mental health as well.
That's right. And talking of your son, so Chris wasn't able to join us today, but he did send us a video. And so hopefully John will be able to play that for us so that we can take a little look inside of Chris's head and how he deals with his own mental health and keeps himself sane and happy. So John, if you can play that video, that would be awesome.
Hi, my name's Chris. I'm a graduating senior and I'm going to college next year. Throughout high school, I had a lot of tough times. COVID was a really big deal and for everybody, and it really caused a lot of anxiety for me. And along with that, college applications were really stressful, and I had to figure out ways to cope with all that stress. So one thing that really helps me when I get anxious is to find distractions, just TV, video games, going out with friends, reading books, all types of things, anything to get my mind off of the stresses. Another thing I like to do is take moments to just relax and reflect. It's really helpful during the day to be kind of mindful and in the moment and just, know everything that's going on around me. It really helps. And the last thing I'd say is making connections with other people, meaningful ones, is really helpful. Just getting to know people a lot better and hanging out with them and sharing my stresses with them, telling them how I'm feeling and how my life's been going. That really helps, like, a lot, just to get everything out there.
Beautiful. Wow. So Chris gave us lots and lots of solutions. So does he use all of those? You're his mom.
Well, yes, Christopher is very similar to me, where our motivator is human connection. And we're always looking to connect with others who have similar interests and who are sympathetic to the way we think. And when we do that, we feel more supported and we feel like we're part of a safe community. And I've noticed he literally follows the path that I do when it comes to dealing with anxiety. And he has found his people, he has found his community, and he did it all through something that he was very interested in since second grade. He's a drummer and a musician, and he has joined 4 different bands at his school and has connected with the kids that are also interested in music. And they have formed such a nice group, and they lean on each other, they support each other. And that really pulled him out. It pulled him out of the pandemic slump. And especially during college applications, they were so supportive, and they're all going to school close to each other, and they're going to all keep in touch. And I think that really helped. And that's where we kept our focus. We kept our focus on interests. We kept our focus on friends that were compassionate and understanding. And of course, we reciprocate, both of us. We want to give back exactly what we receive from our group and our community. And I don't know, this is Chris. That's how he dealt with it. And that's probably how I deal with stress as well.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So what about, so you have 3. So the other 2,
Yep.
Are they like Chris? Do they handle stress the same way?
Well, I like to be very open about our family unit and talk about how our anxiousness sometimes manifests with loud voices, or trying to control schedules, or, especially me, I'm up at 5 a.m. trying to figure out what everyone's doing and when I can get somebody here and when I can drive someone there. And I have a daughter who's 25 years old, and she's, she fits so my daughter, Corrine, is 25, and she was a stellar student. And because she was a stellar student, she went unnoticed in her social and emotional needs when she was in school. And we've had to address some of these as she's entered the working world and has realized that, producing good grades isn't going to get you through corporate America. And she had to relearn how to work in groups, how to deal with different personalities. That has been an interesting challenge. I would love for her to find a community in her age group where they could, connect and discuss the 20-something lifestyle. And I remember being that age, and boy, that was a shocking time once you finish college and you're supposed to navigate the world, but you may not be ready. And although you did really well in school, you may not know what to expect from others out in the real world, because school is not your go-to anymore. Now you have to exist with other adults. So that would be an interesting topic to discuss at another time. And then I have a son who is finishing 8th grade. Today was his last day. He attends Bridges Academy, Bridges Academy saved us. Kyle, my 14-and-a-half-year-old, he was not one for traditional school. God bless our traditional school. We had 2 other kids go right through with flying colors, but it wasn't working for him. And we found Bridges in the middle of 3rd grade and brought him here. And I watched what 8th graders at Bridges Academy do is they do something called a bridging presentation when they leave 8th grade, and they talk about self-growth and where they were when they got here and where they ended up. And I was just so impressed. Academically, definitely, but his social emotional learning, there was such growth. He talked about when he got to Bridges, he would wait for friends to approach him because he was not secure enough to talk to other kids. He didn't feel safe. And he's leaving 8th grade, ready to approach other kids and discuss things he's interested in and find connections. That was a really big deal for me. There was a time where I was very worried about him, and I'm okay now. And I think he's okay now too. Thank you, Bridges. Thank you for that. It's been an interesting journey with all 3 of them.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So, as we know, none of our children are the same. So part of what makes for twice exceptional students having difficulty going through the world is exactly that. None of them are the same. So what may work for one child definitely won't work for another. But I love what you said about Chris's interests and about finding our community. Here at Bridges, we talk about finding your tribe. So where do you fit in? And so probably I would have thought for the mental well-being of a child, finding somewhere to fit in would really be key, right? So where does your child fit in? And if they don't fit in, so Anahid, you said your youngest didn't fit in the public school system, so you found a different place for him to fit in. Yes. I remember Kyle when he first came. He was such a cutie. I can't believe how tall this child has gotten. I keep telling my parents to stop feeding their children. They keep growing, and now they're getting taller than me, which is not a good look for me at all. I feel very short. But where they fit in, so I love that he waited for people to approach him because he did not feel comfortable enough to reach out and approach them. And that really is key for the social and emotional learning of our twice exceptional population. Often they don't feel that they're worthy. Often they're terrified of rejection, and often because social interaction isn't a strength for them, they worry and worry and worry and perseverate on how that interaction might go, and may well perceive something as a rejection that was not necessarily meant as one. So when Kyle would come home then at the end of the day, right, back then, if you can remember when he first started, what sort of things did you do with him? Was it the sit down and tell me all about your day mode, or was it a little bit more relaxed?
Well, like we were just discussing, every child is different. Christopher will get in the car and tell me from A to Z everything that happened all day long. Kyle, on the other hand, has nothing to say. So we would get, I'd pick him up from school and I would say, "Oh, how was your day?" And the answer was, And then I would ask, "What did you eat for lunch?" And so I had to really get creative on how I asked him questions. So I went from that to, "Oh, who sat next to you at the lunch table today?" Or, "After eating your lunch, did you find something fun to do?" And, it was just, I got very creative. And then when we got home, my son is the type that gave his all at school and then came home and was totally exhausted and just done for the day. We tried to do some other extracurriculars for a while. We tried gymnastics because he was very active. We tried some creative classes after school, but he was very tired. And I learned, because as a parent, I have been programmed to enroll them in everything and develop all their strengths and interests. And he may be very interested in something and very good at something, but at 4 o'clock when school is done, he is not interested in developing that strength. So I had to learn to listen to Kyle, and he was a very different child for me. And having a teaching credential and working in an elementary school, I was very, very used to rewards and consequences. And this was not working for my neurodiverse child. And I had to surrender. Basically, I had to surrender everything I thought I knew and every way I thought I was supposed to parent. And I had to let Kyle take the lead. And it really worked with him. It may not work with every child, but for Kyle, surrendering and letting him take the lead and empowering him brought forth self-advocacy. It brought forth conversation. He began to open up to me and tell me things. It was a developmental point of growth, I guess I would say, for him. And that worked for Kyle. That may not have worked for Corinne, my daughter, or Christopher, but for Kyle, that was key. And so I, as a parent, I learned to be flexible and accepting. And one thing that I took away, which I found very interesting, and I reflect on this all the time, I learned to let my children define what success means for them. And I have accepted that it is not what I believe success is for them. And I've accepted that success for Kyle isn't going to be the same thing as success for Christopher. And it's not going to be the same thing as, the way Corinne describes success for her life. And I think that's so hard to do as a parent, because we all want what's best for our child, and we can't help but reflect on our own childhood and reflect on where, if we turned this way, or if we just did this, we would have, projectile ended up somewhere else, or we would have, found success somewhere else. And I'm going to make sure my child does this. And that's not always the right thing for your child. So this is what I've learned parenting 3 very unique, very bright, and very creative kids.
I love that. I love that. I'm on a mic drop here, right? Dropping bombs, as they would say. I mean, that's just wonderful. Yes. I mean, I love that the fact that you said you had to surrender and you have to be flexible. And I think that's vitally important for our mental clarity and our mental sanity as parents. We need to be flexible. Yes. I love what you said about success not looking the same, because it doesn't.
No.
And what I might want for you possibly isn't what you want for you. And we need to figure out where the happy medium is. But I think that we are definitely at risk as parents of overscheduling our children. It's okay for them to do nothing sometimes.
Yeah, it's downtime. I need downtime too. Sometimes I like doing nothing.
Most definitely. And particularly if you think about it, because for a lot of our parents, for a lot of our students, their brains don't shut off.
No.
Right? Their brains are constantly going at 12 million miles an hour. They're constantly processing so much information that really it is exhausting. They are exhausted.
Yeah.
So if they do really well all day at school, then they need some downtime. Yeah. They need some time to just be able to chillax, as my little man used to say.
Yep.
So what is it that gets them rested and giving them time to do it? Now, I know there's always conversation about screen time. Did you use screen time with your kids? Do they use that as a place to relax?
Yes, I absolutely wasn't proud of it. But to keep it real, especially during the pandemic, our kids needed to socialize with other kids, and online classroom was not the place for it. And everyone was learning as they were going. So what evolved naturally with both of my boys was, I guess, I didn't even know what Discord was, but they used Discord to communicate with each other and play games with each other. And there was way more screen time going on than most parents would approve of or appreciate, but it was a way to keep their sanity and keep connected to their friends. And something very interesting has come out of this pandemic and screen time. It's not so scary for a child to change a community or move away or change a friend group anymore, because they know that they could stay connected after school to a friend who maybe lives in New York or Florida or, I don't know, Oregon. And I think that has been a positive. Of course, if there's a balance, I think all of us parents would like that. But some kids I've heard found that online school was their path to success, and other kids who, crave more social interaction needed to go back to the regular classroom like Christopher did. But I don't know. I can't say that I am a parent who controls screen time the way I should, but, I just want to keep it real. I try.
I love that, because we're told, we've got to monitor it. We've got to shut it down. We've got to make sure they're on too much screen time. I'm going, oh my goodness. And again, doesn't that add yet more stress to us as parents? I mean, yes. how many things are we supposed to police?
And if you have a partner or, a significant other involved in parenting, you're going to have 2 different perspectives, 2 different lenses, and 2 different opinions. And so that can cause stress too. Somebody wants you, maybe putting pressure on you to make sure you're controlling the screen time on, for one child. And then I think this is the problem. This is why this is happening. So it's tough. It is so hard. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the answer is. I'm just trying to navigate through it and keep my kids safe online and give them a variety of interaction, not only screen time.
Nice. I love that. A variety of interaction. When my son and friends would come over, I found it quite hysterically funny because there's like 3-4 of them sitting with a laptop in my living room. They're not up, they're not moving, they're not talking. They're all talking to each other through this game that they're playing. I'm going,
yes.
What'd you come over for? You could have stayed at your house and done that. What'd you come to mine? However, being the kind of person that I am, I would then, every so often say, okay, I need you to go outside and get some fresh air. And so they would go out, throw a ball around, play basketball, jump up and down on the trampoline, chase each other around for a bit. Just getting that fresh air, because they were boisterous boys, so the rough and tumble type. So they needed that. When he hung out with different friends, then, I'd encourage them to go for a bike ride, or just take a walk around the neighborhood. Or we used to, I lived in a Caribbean island, so we sat on the beach. Not always possible everywhere, but definitely wonderful. If you can do it, definitely. One of my students who is now, I don't understand seniors and whatever, but he's now his second year in college. One of the things that I know that he likes to do is to be by the sea. And so last week, he was very stressed out about some things that were going on at college. And so I suggested to him that he drives out and sits on the beach. And he went, nah, don't know if I've got the time. I said, you need to make the time to go sit on the beach. They'll take a walk in the sand because, that always works. And so then he called me a couple of days, I think it was a day later, because that's exactly what he did. So he called me from the beach because he'd gone to the beach. And that was it. That was his happy place. Right. And so that was very, very calming for him. And he was able to process what was going on. And he came away from having spent an hour or two at the beach with a plan for what his next step was, but feeling a lot better about himself. So finding your happy place is definitely one of my recommendations. So what is it that makes you happy? Is it going to the beach? Is it reading a book? What is it that makes you happy? And then scheduling it. Putting it on your schedule.
That's where mom gets up at 5 a.m. and schedules everything out for everyone and then tries to make sure it happens. But yeah, I agree. Nature is so therapeutic. And if we as parents could find a way to intertwine any sort of nature into their daily lives, even if it's for 15 minutes, I think it's a win. I think it's a win. Be it the beach, be it the mountains, be it sitting under a tree, reading a book, having a conversation, and then getting back in your car and, navigating through traffic.
Oh, yes. For anybody in LA,
yes.
Navigating traffic is a big thing. Yeah. But I love that. Just even 15 minutes for your day, getting back to nature is definitely calming. So you say you get up at the crack of dawn to do the schedule? Oh my goodness.
I personally am a morning person. This happened when I became a parent, and I get a lot done when the house is quiet and no one is around, but try to talk to me after 7 and I wish you well, because I cannot function. Don't take it personally if I don't reply.
So what happens after 7 then? You shut the world down? What do you know?
No, it's what I like to do. Okay. The way I maximize my happy places is that I like quiet. As I've gotten older, I've really appreciated silence. And after 7, I have been driving for hours and running everybody everywhere and caring for other family members as well. By the time I'm done, and by the time it's 7 o'clock and everyone's been fed and the pets have been taken care of and the house is presentable, I am ready to relax. And I do that by, going online, reading about what happened today in the world, or watching something, or, I don't know, anything, but I like my quiet time, and that's my downtime. And I also, me personally, I like to go to bed early meaning like 9 o'clock, but I need a nice 2 hours to decompress because I am on the go. And I have a lot of family members that look to me for different types of care. And so I'm managing a lot of people within my family. I always joke with my kids and say, I am executively functioning for a lot of people. So cut me a break.
So do the children and your husband, they know to give you that space? How did you establish?
Well, the kids are older now. So in my household, I am living a lifestyle where my teenagers go up to their rooms after dinner and they don't want to talk to me anyway. So that works. And then, my husband actually has a job where he isn't home all the time. And because of that, I'm able to have quiet time to myself. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I adore my husband, but he is away weekly, and it's our lifestyle has kind of evolved to work out in that way. And I don't know, it works for us, just works for us. Yeah.
I like that. So when the kids were younger, though, were you able to get that same amount of quiet?
No, and things change all the time. That was not what I looked forward to when I was younger. As a parent of a younger child, it was a lot of hands-on work, I think. For me, it was a lot of, feeding, bathing, dressing, navigating, play dates and socializing. And at that time, I was a different person. And I think that's something we should all be okay with. And what I'm saying is that as we age as adults and as our kids grow up and become much more independent than they used to be, our needs change too. And I am one person that, I have to admit, I don't love fitness and I do love food. So I really can't say that I focus on wellness all the time. I know I should. And I try, but we're all human. We do the best we can, and our interests change as we change and grow and evolve. So just because you did something 2-3 years ago doesn't mean that's your interest today, or it may not be your interest in 2-3 years.
Oh, I love that. Yes, because we need to remember that just as our children are changing and developing, so too are we.
Yeah.
And yes, Valerie, we definitely need to make sure that we refill our own cup so that we are able to refill the cups of others. I liken that too when you're on the plane and the air stewardess tell you to put on your mask first.
Yes.
They specify this. So when you're out with your children, put on your mask first, and then you can put on the mask to help your children. So of course, if we don't look after our own well-being, how on earth can we look after the well-being of our children?
Exactly.
But it's definitely, I think it's definitely important to realize that our needs will change, so too will our children's needs. And that's okay. It's all right to change.
Yes.
Change is a part of living. Yes.
Be kind to others and be kind to yourself, because everyone is evolving, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think being kind to ourselves has to be key, because I think if we can be kind to ourselves, if we can model being kind to ourselves, then hopefully our neurodivergent children will see that and will begin to be kind to themselves, because we know that for a lot of our children, particularly if they're in regular public schools, what they're told every day is what they're not good at. What's pointed out to them every day is where they're failing. I
believe that's called deficit-based and not strength-based. And although it's well-intentioned, what they're doing is trying to fix the deficit. And by doing that, they're pointing out that this child has a deficit. And if you're constantly told there's something wrong and we need to fix it, that's going to affect your self-esteem. So maybe we should focus on their strengths as well.
Definitely. You're right. So yeah, so if your wonderful human spends all day being told how awful they are or what they can't do, then what they need when they come home is that balanced out. As my mentors would say, we need you to pour some positive in. So share with them what they're good at, share with them their strengths. One of the other things that that I have done in the past is flow. So we often do an activity called flow. And flow is for our children to find something that they're good at and that they enjoy, and then they spend a prolonged period of time doing it. So for instance, a child who may be interested in comic books may spend 20 minutes drawing their comic, drawing out a comic book or reading a comic book, but they're in flow because at that particular time, they're really engrossed and involved in that activity that they enjoy. And so at home, flow time's a great time, right? You know, my son enjoys puzzles. I literally just sent him a 3D model that he's going to put together. He's obsessed with Mandalorian. We're all obsessed with Mandalorian. And so it's the Mandalorian's helmet. And it was so funny because I sent it to him. And the only thing that he said, the only negative was, oh, I wish I could wear it. Right? So he's just arrived in the post. And so he wants to, so I'm looking forward to him putting it together. But I think on the box it says it's supposed, I don't know, it's supposed to take several days. I know my child, he will start it and it'll be done in a couple of hours because he won't move until it's finished, you know. So some people talk about these things as obsessions, and I don't. I talk about these as strengths. If your child is going to hyper focus on something that they really want to do, then that's an area of strength and interest and should be encouraged, so long as it's not negative behavior. Obviously, not stabbing and poking holes in the wall. Well, we wouldn't encourage that one, right? But if it's something that we can encourage them to do, then let's set aside time for them to do it, you know?
Definitely.
So, you know, so maybe it's we all hate homework, right? It's why at my school we don't set it for our younger children. But maybe that's, you know, a trade-off. So on the calendar or on the daily schedule, you know, 7 p.m. is flow time, you know, or it's the time that they can go work on their puzzle, or it's the time that they can do whatever it is that they enjoy, so that they have something to look forward to. But also, maybe we need to flip it, because if they've had a really intense day and they're burnt out and they get home at 4 o'clock, starting homework at that time is probably not the right thing. Maybe they need to come home and have some flow. Maybe they need to have some time to relax and enjoy themselves and, you know, decompress from the day and then do homework a little bit later. So figuring out, you know, the ebb and flow for the day for your child so that they can get inbuilt rest, inbuilt mental health preservation, you know, reinforcement of what an amazing person they are, right? So if they can come home and maybe they rest and relax and they're celebrated, or maybe they veg out for 20 minutes and watch a TV program, you know, not 4 or 5 hours, obviously, so not a full-on movie, but, you know, it might be a 20 or 30-minute TV program, and then get up and go do something else. And so maybe that's that opportunity for them. I do not believe it. What happened to my day? I'm literally just looking up, and we only have 6 minutes left. Oh, talking to you has been phenomenal, right? So we don't have I did have an additional question. I don't know where it is, but never mind.
I have a comment if you want. I was going to mention that with my children, when they're in flow or hyper-focused on something positive, it is an immense source of pride for them. And that is the hook, parents. When you find them in flow working on something, you need to encourage that and tell them how proud you are of them and watch that grow. It grows like weeds. I mean, they are going to want to please you, but forget about you. It's something that they authentically, organically are interested in, and they want to do more and learn more. I think that's just such a beautiful thing. And it's so easy to do that at home after school, because sometimes when they're in flow at school, schedules dictate endings. And when they're at home and they're doing something constructive, just let them go with it. Like building, creating, painting, whatever it is.
Oh, Anahid, somebody wants to connect with you. So
Oh,
want to know, are you willing to give a contact where we can connect with you, Anahid?
yes. Yes, we will send you that information.
Okay, perfect,
Yes.
perfect.
Yes.
So, all right, so 4 minutes, Anahid. What's your final tip, info?
Well, I think my journey on parenting is very unique. My children are unique. They all had different needs. I learned to value flexibility. I learned to praise their strengths so that they feel good about themselves. And most importantly, be flexible and find your people. Because when you find your people, your kids find their people. And a supportive community is more important than, it's up there with a lot of other things, but mental health is just as important as physical health. And for you to optimize your mental health, you need to feel comfortable in your surroundings and with the people you're surrounded by.
Oh, wow. I love that. Perfect. So, I can't believe that my time has disappeared. So as parents, as educators, as children, it is important that we remember to put time for ourselves onto our daily schedule. If for some unknown reason you are not able to do it every day, you must get it on your weekly schedule. Do not allow a full week to go down or go by without you taking time for yourself in an area that interests you, for a time of a passion for you. If you're blessed enough to have a partner, a husband, wife, whatever, then tell them, take the kids for 20 minutes. I'm going to have a little me time. It's okay to have me time. I know, particularly as females, we tend to think that we have to do everything and that there is no time for me. But remember, like I said, put your own mask on first. So fill up your own cup, because when your cup is full and overflowing, then you have more to be able to give to those people that you love and care for, and they will definitely appreciate you more for it. And so we have come to the end of our season. I cannot believe it. It's quite insane where the time has gone. Anahid, it's just been an absolute delight to talk with you today. We've learned so much from you. My deepest thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know your youngest finished early today and you rearranged your schedule just to be with us. And I know that you have a joint graduation party that you're throwing. So you are definitely a busy woman. And it's not gone without appreciation that you've taken time away from all of those things to come and pour into us. So it's been a pleasure, everybody, helping you find answers to your questions. I hope you're now inspired to use the recommendations from Anahid and myself. So if our guests during the season have made a difference to you and your family, please email me and share. Our email is crucialconversations@2ecenter.org. I also want to say a very special thank you to John. John is poorly, but he continues to work tirelessly behind the scenes. Thank you, John, for all your hard work, your expertise, and your patience, because trust me, you are the reason that this webcast happens. Right, we are going on a hiatus for the summer. So there will not be a Crucial Conversations in June or July, but we will be back on August the 16th. Oh my goodness, as we prepare for the return to school. So our August episodes will explore that preparation and coping with the stress of new school, new college, new everything, new clothing, and that new experience with new adults. So have a wonderful summer break. I know most of you will be working, but some of us in education will be having a break. And I look forward to seeing you all in August as we kickstart our brand new school year and a brand new season. Do look out. We'll be doing some additional resources and I'll be sharing more details about that. So have a wonderful summer, and in August, make sure that you join me.